live here. Appreciate you all waiting. Technical difficulties, but we've knocked it out. We can get started. We have the awesome, wonderful cast of MGS that you've all been waiting for. Appreciate you. I'll just do a quick roundup of everyone. Overall, starting on my left, we've got Kim Maguess right there. We've got Jim Piddock right after her.
Not Paul.
Or Paul, sorry. We got Jim right after him. We've got our great director, Chris. Woo! We've got Mr. David Hayter right here. And then we've got Tazia. Tasia. Right there. And then we have Phil Lamar joining remotely.
Yay! And we have a couple of others joining remotely.
And maybe some more people might be joining remotely. I won't say anything, but we will see. So thank you guys for joining us. We will get started. If we want to go ahead and just give us a little brief history of MGF. It's been around forever. We've got, 5 games plus the other side games that have all happening.
Yeah.
It's been one great franchise, started in 1987. All the way to 2023. People are still loving and playing it. So yeah, I will, if you want to give a little history of it.
When it first started, I was a director at Hanna-Barbera Studios, and I got a call one afternoon from a lady named Keiko, and she asked if I could possibly direct a video game, and I said, okay, sure. So she had hired me to be the director, and she had hired an on-camera casting agent to do a week's worth of auditions. Right. On camera and voiceover are not the same, especially as a commercial casting. So they're all about people's look. I said, great. I'm happy to do the directing for that, but I want to bring in 20 people. I want to bring in 20 people that I choose. The rest can all be on her. My cherry pick cast, you guys.
Woo!
Yeah.
19 of my 20 got the part. I don't remember who was.
Anything, let me ask you this. Anything that you can possibly remember specific as to what set them apart from the other actors that auditioned?
I think it was talent. That's exactly the word I was going to
Obviously,
use.
but was this anything, I think, was it more so like the way they came at the character or how they approached the character?
They
or
just were not good.
No?
No.
Okay.
It is, it's, you have to act in the moment with the script that you've just given. You're just given it. And these guys could just, boom, become the character and go right into it. And, on camera people, some of them, especially people starting out, have to practice it 1,000 times. And there's no time for that in voiceover. Yeah,
right.
We do 400 lines in a 4-hour session sometimes.
Yeah, because sessions, as I understand it, I mean, I'm not a voiceover actor or anything, but as I understand it, sessions are pretty quick, right? Like you don't get a lot of time to really develop or go into every line and everything as much as maybe want to. It's kind of a fast-paced environment.
It's a very fast-paced environment.
Yeah.
And direction on a need-to-know basis.
Oh.
That's exactly right.
So
you get no information until it's appropriate and timely.
So then that would
better.
Let me throw a question out to the cast then. Was it easy for you to just jump into the character? Did you guys do a lot of research, or was there a lot of thinking involved?
You go ahead.
Since you got such raving reviews from the director here, how amazing all of you were.
Well, and all of that is accurate, but no, so when I auditioned with this voice. This is how I talk, and in fact, I was younger, so I probably sounded a little more like this, and sort of a cocky fighter pilot sort of thing. And then I got cast, and then they gave me the script, and I read it, and this guy was a retired legend, and he didn't want to come back, and he'd been, through hell. And I was like, I just feel like he's got to be rougher and been dragged over miles of bad road. And so, I started doing this voice, and then in the middle of the first day, but I don't know, a few hours in, Chris goes, "Hey, can I play you back the voice you auditioned with?"
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, and I was like, I know it's different. Is this okay? Is this all right? Should we go back? And she was like, I don't know. I think it's working, and I felt pretty good about it. And so that's how it came together. Was through the research of the script.
So we're glad you didn't use your normal voice.
Oh, how horrible! Colonel, I'm going after Metal Gear.
If he had used his normal voice, I wouldn't have got this job. There wouldn't have been a 2 and a 4.
Right.
That's right.
And
That's
then 3 of my actors got the roles. No.
Yes, so that's how that came together. Tasia came in fully, or all of them came in just
What were you?
nailing it.
What did you happen to be wearing when you came in to the audition? Do you
Did I
remember?
wear a bandana?
Yes.
Okay.
He was wearing a white t-shirt, khaki pants, and a bandana, but I don't think he knew what the character looked like ahead of time.
But he
No, but
shouted.
I knew he had some sort of military thing, so
It
so I
worked.
was trying to go with something that looked like casual military thing. Also, Chris will claim that I had a mullet. I did not have a mullet.
I never said that.
But my hair, you did, for many years, you were like, David came in and he had a mullet. And I was like, well,
Because
That's how you got the job.
I'm
the
sure it was just
bandana
a bad.
caused the mullet.
You sounded like you had a mullet, I think.
I sounded like I had a played mullet.
You know, I believe you so much. I saw the mullet.
But you know, one of the gifts that you gave, because a lot of times in voiceover games, we only were alone. We have to do all our lines alone, and this was a group. Did we not?
We did. We all
Yeah.
recorded.
Not everything, but
Some I
some
feel
of
like
it we
our,
did.
ours-
So the first game we recorded in this weird little house
Oh my gosh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
that wasn't. We were just in the living room.
It was Valentino's
Wow.
former mansion.
Oh, is that right?
And it was a compound that had the production offices in one building and the home in another.
Uh-huh.
And we recorded in the living room of the home, which was very large, but there was no glass separating the actors from everybody else.
Oh,
So
And it
we
wasn't
couldn't
soundproof.
make a sound.
Right.
And it wasn't soundproof, and there was a stop sign right outside. Every truck, every motorcycle, we had to stop.
Yeah.
Where, but
so how was that going, making sure that you guys cleared this, got good sound with that? Did it take
Hell.
longer than 4 hours? I'm assuming.
No air conditioning either.
Oh, yeah.
And like the floor.
We couldn't have the air conditioning on.
Right,
because
right.
of the noise.
Yeah,
Because
it's so
the
hot.
Now, did that help with any of you as far as like getting into the character? Since like, this is like a rough and tumble espionage type world that all these characters live in.
and it was uncomfortable.
Well-
and uncomfortable and constant changing and
No,
adversaries,
no
but
No.
whereas you guys are used to being in a nice air conditioned booth most of the time,
I'm sure it added to Snake's crankiness, but but the nice thing was, as Tasia says, we had these mics lined up and we just did it like an animated show. We just did it like a radio play all together. And then for all the subsequent games, I stipulated that that's how we had to, that I wanted all the actors to come in with me to do it. So I get Jim, Paul, or Kim, Tasia, everybody. I don't mean to refer to the monitor people as everybody. They are the greatest actors on the set. And Doug and everybody. And so for every game we got to record it all, ensemble, and it was amazing. That's part of what makes the game so special and so real.
I don't remember huge groups. I mean, I think we did a lot of our stuff. Just the
I
two
think
of us.
mostly it's you and I.
It was, a lot of it was just a couple people at the same
But
time.
Right.
yeah, Metal Gear
Times.
3. Well, yeah, it depended on. And a lot of the scenes are just one-on-one. But
Yeah.
yeah, we had a number of chairs lined up. But I remember you and I sitting next to each
Yeah,
other.
an awful lot of it was just the two of us.
But reacting to the actor is very different than just, being, okay, this is your next line, this is your next line,
Yeah.
when you're alone, trying to create that. And
Some
then
of
you
it
get
is
much more, depth from
Yeah.
the-
Yeah, because normally you guys don't get someone to play off of, right?
No.
Like
normally
it's just
you're on your
you
own. and-
with maybe a sound engineer,
Yep.
Animation, TV animation is usually done in a group. It used to be
Yeah.
until
Used to be.
recent times.
Yeah.
But I have 12 people in the room at the same time doing a cartoon together, and it's just a blast
It
for them feeding off of each other,
Yeah.
feeding the energy of the characters, and it's just a very special event. So I tried to bring some of that to the gaming world, which they usually do one person at a time because it's more cost effective.
right?
There's a
All right.
spontaneity that happens when everyone's in the room.
Absolutely.
You know, for me, it always feels more real, more honest. We work
Yeah.
scenes with David,
Makes a huge difference.
more enjoyable, and even with animation, it's a lot more fun. Sometimes it takes a little longer because you start laughing or, you crack each other
I
up.
still only have 4 hours. It still has to get done, Paul.
Mhm.
We get it done. We always get it done.
Oh,
And so I have a question from a fan who, and I didn't know. So apparently there's an MGS3 remake that's coming out.
Mhm.
And he asked, is it true that none of you are going to be voicing any of the characters?
As far as I know, they are reusing the original tracks.
So there we go.
That is the official line. They will be repurposing our voices, yeah.
Oh, so there you have it, guys. They will actually be their voices, but they won't be recording any new dialogue.
Correct.
It will just be repurposed dialogue from the other games.
Are we getting paid for that?
Yeah, that's
I
the
think the
that's the
answer
great thing about these games.
Well,
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
case,
She was out.
That's
yeah.
why we're going on strike.
That's
I don't
right.
get paid either.
And there we have the fabulous Debbie May West joining us.
Meryl.
Yay.
That's all I wanted to hear was Meryl.
Thanks for
I
joining
remember
us.
that walk.
Oh, there's no echo.
Figure.
What happened?
We're not on.
I-
We're
I
not on
missed that
StreamYard
echo.
anymore.
We're on a better program.
Debbie, do you still have your action figure?
I do. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
Yeah, bring it
Hold,
out.
please. Oh, look, I have that too. This
Nice.
nifty Meryl flag.
As we wait for her to come back with her awesome action figure, is there any game that you guys voiced that was probably your favorite out of all the entire series?
I was just gonna say Metal Gear.
Here.
Wow.
Well, I often say that Snake Eater is my favorite of the games, but I love them all. First one's amazing, 2 and 4 are amazing, but Snake Eater had this retro feel, and it's the most fully experienced cinematic situation, I think, that it just felt like living a movie and really
Yeah.
came together beautifully.
And that one, I think, also got a lot of praise because it had a deeper story than most of them.
Well, they're all
It
pretty
really
deep. I just don't
into it,
understand
but-
any of it.
Yeah.
What's actually going on?
Now, did you guys find this whole world of like espionage and sneaking around and all that very intriguing? Did you do any research about that, or do you basically just take off whatever you gleaned from any type of other media or movies?
I just took it from the script. I didn't sneak around or join the army or anything. Chris Randolph, how about you? Did you do any?
Oh, any like
Research
research?
Yeah.
No, I just took it from the script. And it's ironic because I'm not particularly technically adept the way Otacon is.
Who
So,
is?
you have to fake it till you make it, really.
Right.
Yeah, and
But,
all of the
but that said, the script was awfully well written. The first one, I mean, all of them, but the first one was breaking so much ground,
Yes.
And so I always felt like, it was all new to me. You guys were talking about that studio. I had never recorded anything. So I thought that this was the way that it always happened, was we had to stop whenever a truck would go by.
Wait, Christopher, so you're saying this was your first VO job?
That was my first VO job. I had taken a wonderful class taught by none other than Chris Zimmerman. And I had been referred to that class by the wonderful Jennifer Hale. But this was, I think it was the first audition I ever did was for Metal Gear. I mean, first voice audition, and definitely the first voice job I ever did.
19 out of 20.
Awesome.
Yeah.
nice.
Well, and no, it's Chris Zimmerman. It's all her fault.
Well, needless to
Well-
say, I think we can say the class paid off.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. The class really paid off.
Yeah.
The other person who just briefly who taught that class was Charlie Adler.
Ha.
Who,
Very different
the
tone.
Most extraordinary, crazy, amazing, wonderful voice actor. I learned a lot from Charlie too.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now we have the fabulous Doug Stone joining us.
Yay, you made it, Doug.
Psycho had tech issues. They've got me the satellite circling the Earth because I'm so evil, and it just took a little while to get back here with you Earthlings and all you good people.
Try switching your controller ports.
Ha.
I was playing Castlevania with some friends, and I forgot about the event. I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I knew you were a fan of Castlevania.
I'm still vibrating.
And Doug, so I'll ask you the same thing I asked David. Did you do any research or any other considerations when developing your Psycho Mantis character?
Doug came in at the death scenes.
Research.
Research? I went to the playground and kicked a couple of orphans. And I insulted a puppy that I met on the street, just randomly, just to get in the mood. No, I didn't do any research. I heard the prior thing. I'd been doing voiceover since '81 or so, intermittently, and at that point, that was primarily my career. So I really just base a lot, as I still do, on the drawings and character descriptions I'm given, and
Yes.
go from there. And then just experiment and try to find ways to vary it from anything you've done before, and hopefully anything you've heard before. And that was essentially. And then, of course, Chris said, "Do this," did the Psycho voice, and I just copied it.
Oh,
Yeah. It's hard to do research when you're doing fiction.
It's true, but Phil, I want to hear about your research for Vamp,
Yeah.
there we go.
because
There
he's a
was
vampire
none.
and he's bisexual.
Actually, Chris, if my memory is pretty blurry, but I remember coming in to audition for something. What was it? DARPA chief, something like that.
Mm.
And then halfway through, you said, "Oh, there's this other character that we were having trouble finding somebody for. You want to give it a try?"
Yep.
And that was Vamp.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And it's interesting that you say that, because the DARPA chief, as I recall, was a very stocky kind of older guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your voice didn't really match for that. But then I've got this flamboyant vampire thing.
Right.
Drawing of that, he opened his mouth and was like, "Yeah, that's great."
It was perfect.
Yeah.
You brought me in to read for Snake originally, and
What?
yeah, and that
I had no
didn't go
information.
great. And then you said, "Hold on a minute." Chris said this, and then there was a conversation in the booth. I mean, I could see from my glass walled-in booth there was a conversation, and then you came in with a picture of Otacon #1, and it kind of looked a little like me, which is
Yep.
really
He
weird.
does look
There
like
was
Oh,
there
wow.
wasn't anybody from Konami there when I held the auditions. It was just me and the sound engineer.
Ah,
Oh.
interesting.
Similar,
Yeah.
I was asked to read Debbie Mae West's character when I first. They said this
I
just
tried out
isn't
for Debbie
working.
Mae
This
West's
just isn't.
character,
She hadn't come in yet. So they switched me to Psycho. Then she came in and nailed it. So that was that. But
I want to know what my Debbie Mae West character is and what that means. What is my character? I'm still
Meryl.
searching for my true self. Chris?
Yeah.
It's Meryl.
All right, I am Meryl.
I thought she sounded
Meryl.
I did her as if she was Danny DeVito, which isn't her. Hey,
Funny.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
get taxi and kill everybody.
Oh, good one.
Mm.
So,
Now we see why you didn't get it.
yeah. Oh well.
So let me ask you guys this.
Tasia,
Better Woman
did you have the Russian accent all ready to go when you auditioned, Tasia?
I think not. I think I kind of figured it was a Kurdish accent, so I was kind of just
Right.
rolling with it. But I think for me, what I would remember was, trying to make a 20-minute death scene really meaningful and really feel it for that long, because it was almost like the I'm dying, I'm still dying, I'm still dying, and I
Wait.
but there's more. So that was really. But I was truly moved by the scene itself, and then I forgot about it completely until I didn't play the game. I wasn't a game player at the time, and I was on YouTube. Someone said, "You got to go see the Sniper Wolf scene on YouTube," and I watched it for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, this is so sad! It was so sad! It was so beautiful."
It's one of the greatest scenes in gaming.
Yeah, I
It
think
is. It's a beautiful scene. I love that scene.
it is a really beautiful scene. So I was able to really appreciate it, from the spectator and the gamer. And I guess that's one of the reasons, again, these kinds of scenes the first time that you felt for video game characters instead of just like, Leisure Suit Larry and, like.
Mario.
Mario, right. So that was what was so powerful about this particular game was the emotional connection to the characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason I auditioned is because I loved playing Metal Gear 1.
Oh, that's great. So let me ask you guys this: Do any of you,
So
other than
cinematic.
Phil, actually play the game?
Nope.
I play all the ones I'm in, yeah.
I played the
can't
first
tell
one.
anybody.
I played
No,
the
I
first
can't.
one.
I suck at it.
Yeah,
So my,
I always want to hire a teenager to play the game so I can actually get to my character.
for my birthday this year, back in March, my son-in-law and my other daughter's boyfriend, for my birthday, had me sit down in the living room on the big screen. They played Metal Gear, and made me listen to my voice. To Colonel Campbell, doing cut scenes.
Wow.
And they just played. It was a couple of hours.
How fun.
I
remember
played in my
when-
living room with some friends and my cats. We just like reenacted all, but
When
the
the first
cats improvise and some of the lines change.
Well, but
When the
Doug,
first
the cats
game
aren't going to
came-
crawl out of a box like Snake.
No, they
When
crawl
the-
into a box and they will not get out again. They just
That's
start
as far
to
as I
purr.
got was box.
When the first game came out, I tried to play it, and I had to go buy. At the time, you could buy a cheater's book. You had to that would give you hints. And all I was trying to do was get to the place where Otacon appears because I wanted to see what I'd done. But I kept getting killed. And
that's why I don't play games.
That's why
I kept
cheaters never
saying-
prosper.
and I was saying to my therapist at the time that there's something here. I'm trying to get to my work, but I keep getting killed. What does this mean?
Spiritual death before you can get
It's
there.
just horrible.
Nice.
I don't know
We're all
if you guys-
revealing way too much about ourselves.
Yeah, we are.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys remember, but do you recall how little direction there was on any of our scripts?
Yeah, how much
yes.
direction did you give them, if any, in the booth when they were
Well,
doing it?
it-
Especially when
Like
it's
a
a big
master speed.
ensemble and everyone's doing it at the same time.
Sometimes it was, and sometimes it was one-on-one. I remember one of the first games we were doing in a proper studio, and the clients were there, and so I'd be working with the actors, and again, like they were saying, the actors are saying, we got it off the scripts. So you can find out a lot just by reading the scripts. They'd be conferring in Japanese, and I'd be telling the actors what I needed to do. And then the translator would say they would like this, 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 and this. And I said, yeah, I just told them all that. and I would hear them talking. They're behind me, and I would hear, psycho, psycho, psycho. And, this started to bother me that they're calling me psycho. And it turned out to speak Japanese. It turned out after a while, I turned to the translator and I said, why do they keep calling me psycho? And I said, oh, psycho, it means ultimate.
Ah!
Oh, fabulous.
She was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yes.
I don't know why I still got it, but I actually have one of the Metal Gear Solid scripts.
Oh,
What?
I have one.
What?
I have one.
Look at
That's
that.
like,
Yeah.
how did you get that?
I was in a
You
game called
steal
Metal
it?
Gear Solid, and and I think I stole the script.
And we had paper then.
Wow.
So it's all Mandus's stuff, but some of the lines that feed in
I
to
thought those
Mandus.
were all NDA'd and not allowed out of the studio.
We
Right?
didn't have
Where
it.
are you? We have to send in the Metal Gear police.
Phil Lamar put it in my pocket, and I didn't find it until I got home.
What they call him, Van.
I
There were
didn't
no
know he was in the
NDAs.
studio that day, but apparently he was. Sorry, Phil, I got to drop this on somebody other than me.
Yeah.
I'm a coward. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't know how I ended up with this, but I did.
You could put it up on eBay, Doug.
I've thought about putting it up for sale. It's got a bunch of the pronunciations that we obviously got from
Oh, how funny.
telepathy. I didn't know how to say telepathy. I had to write it out phonetically for myself. Right.
I don't remember you doing a lot of direction. I was very, I mean, in terms of like, it wasn't like we were constantly, we were allowed to do what we did.
I like actors acting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I was
if
really,
you act, I'm really happy about it.
It
I don't
was-
have to tell you to do, I mean, I've heard of so many directors who love to give line reads that
Yeah.
aren't good.
Oh.
And I was trained by Gordon Hunt.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
Gordon Hunt was a fabulous theater director,
He was fantastic.
television director, and animation director. And I sat next to him for 14 years as his assistant.
And Gordon was the same. It was very
Yeah, he
refreshing.
was- and that's who I learned from. So
Yeah.
I learned that. And
Yeah.
I think that that's why actors like working with me,
Yeah.
because I'm not constantly telling them how to do their lines. Therefore, then they would all sound the same.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's
Right,
true.
right, Chris, because you know that the job is for us to embody the character, not to just be parrots.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I did a tiny bit of directing compared to Chris, and I realized that if I did that line reading thing, then the whole orchestra is conducted with my song, with my
Exactly.
voice.
Yeah.
And if you let the actors come into it, you go, oh, this is a way bigger orchestra than I had pictured, and much more. You know, the notes go here and the notes go there.
More dynamic.
I'm just more dynamic. I'm just there to keep it on theme. But why would you hire the actors if you didn't want them to be creative?
You don't let them act. Paul, you were going to say something about Kojima?
Yeah.
Yeah, one more thing about you. The directions, the directions that I would get from Chris, whether it's animation or video game, the directions are usually one word.
Better?
She'll find it.
Funnier, faster,
Funnier.
Fired. You're fired.
funnier.
She would find some word or maybe two words, and it would change what I was thinking. It's like, oh, now I get it. I get it. If I was struggling with something, it was never say it this way or try this. It was just one or two words, and it's like, oh, yeah, the mind opens up.
Direction on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah. Now during
Yeah, and-
one time Kojima was there for me.
For you.
Was doing Metal Gear 2. And it was interesting because
I have a Kojima
I would
story
see
for that.
them talking back and forth, and Chris would give me the directions or whatever, and that was a very wordy. I had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to say that I didn't understand at all. The only thing that I ever got from him was
Kojima came to the auditions, but I had no idea who he was. I mean, there was five very proper gentlemen in suits, Japanese people.
Did he have a lot of say on the casting or the process, or basically you just there to see how it was going?
We reviewed all the 200 million people that came in. We sat for a few days in the studio reviewing everybody. So
I suspect that the reason he put my casting was because I was in a movie called Geiger Dark Hero, which he was a fan of. He was the lead in this movie that was an adaptation from a Japanese anime. And one of the young women who worked on the crew was my guest. And so we met and worked together in 1993 before working together on Metal Gear in 1998. So that was pretty cool.
the next time I saw Kojima was the same time that he came into the second one that we did at Sony Studios. And we were waiting for our next actor, and he came in with his entourage, looking like a rock star. And yeah, black,
Yeah, I
all black.
remember that too.
I was playing with a yo-yo.
Someone's saying that the audio is unintelligible. I don't know if
No,
anyone's seen
it's
that.
gotten better all of a sudden. It's gotten
Oh,
better.
okay.
He
Sorry about you, Chris.
It was a little muddy before, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing with a yo-yo when he came into the studio. We were waiting for the next actor, and I'm playing with this yo-yo. And I was just kind of fiddling. And he walked over to me, and he bowed, and he took his hand and set it out for me to give him the yo-yo. And he did a trick.
Oh.
And I bowed and asked for the yo-yo back. And then I did. And he just looked at me and went, and turned around and walked away.
Wow.
I'm fired. I'm fired.
That's
You went
great.
out to Montana.
I really, I mean, I was like, I dissed him, not on purpose.
I did
Incredible.
want to also mention the first time working with Jim Piddock, of whom I was a great fan, and I was like, oh my God, you know, what an actor to be able to work with. But it was an unusual situation, I think, for Jim, as this was a very strange game and a very strange part. And he asked me, he's like, your character's, what's your character's name? And I'm like, well, normally he's Solid Snake, but in this one, it's a, you know, this is the person he's been cloned off of. So he's Naked Snake, and I gave him all this lore.
Ah,
And he sipped his tea and said, well, I think I'll call you Surreptitious Stain Snake. I thought that was a great example.
I have a bit of trivia to throw in. I don't know if you guys know that Psycho Mantis did some car commercials.
Full Focus SE. Yeah, me
You
and
can
Paul
be
did
found
those
on
as well.
YouTube.
Hi, Scoop. Is that okay?
I got a call from what was purported to be a PR agency in Florida saying, we want to do these car commercials with Psycho Mantis. They went, oh, yeah, right. You know, you actually have to get permission to use characters. And I thought, you know, somebody doesn't know what they're doing. They said, oh, we actually already did some, and they named some well-known cartoons. And they said, we've gotten permission, and we've already talked to the company. We just want to know if you want to do them, you know, union cartoons. And they use Psycho Mantis's section where he's on the table, and he's saying, I know what you want. You want a car that does this and this, and I can read your mind. You want this kind of. I did about 5 car commercials, and gave half the money to the Kitty Bungalow, the animal shelter I'm on the board of, because it was just like this out of the blue thing. But you can find on YouTube Psycho doing car commercials from about 10 years ago.
That's fun.
That's because I did a car commercial, and the guys were big fans of Metal Gear. So they said, if we did one with you playing Snake and maybe bring in the Colonel, and you know, would you do it? And I was like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. But I was like, sure, because I figured, you know, Konami would never agree to do it. And they were like, great. The next day they called and said, great, Konami signed off. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, same thing.
Wow.
I saw yours. Yeah.
You
So
did
careful
that.
what you
Yeah, I was like,
Did you know that this? I had one of those life intersecting as in my mom book club. I was reading a story called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it's about video game makers. These two video game makers, and like a third through, they were talking about this incredible new game that was being made called Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, I'm in that.
That's amazing.
You know, I was literally reading this great book, and it's a hugely successful book. I don't know if anyone knows about Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, but it literally tracked these.
I've heard the phrase.
Yeah, the book is very
I
cool.
thought we had the echo back again.
This petty face.
It talks about Metal Gear being one of these incredibly, you know,
Wow.
Kojima, you know, being this masterful game maker, and it was just so neat, you know, art in life and life in art, and it's something that you're always surprised, or maybe not anymore, who is a fan and how legendary the game is.
Yeah, and I'm sure
insane.
it's probably impacted a lot of fans' lives. You know, we take these games as just their games, but for a lot of fans, they really dive into it. It helps them, you know, deal with other issues in their lives and things like that, which, you know, cannot be minimized at all, I think. And that kind of pivots me into my next question for all you guys. You know, since it is such a pivotal game and there are all these scenes with like such emotion and like heavy material and all that, out of all the franchise and all that you worked on, what is each one of your favorite scenes, if you have one, of the entire series that you've either voiced, or maybe it doesn't even have to be a scene that you were in. It could be a scene that someone else was in and you're just like, oh, that really got me.
No, this
you have
seems brilliant.
I actually had wanted to just mention this anyway. I believe it was the last game that we did. It might have been the second to last. There was a scene where we found out that Meryl is Colonel's daughter, and Meryl was getting married that day, and they were behind this, you know, the scenes, waiting for her to go out to get married. And I've known Paul's family our kids were in a play group together when they were 1.5 years old. That's how I met Paul, and et cetera, et cetera. That same day that the scene was already making me cry, his oldest daughter, that was my son's dear friend, was going off to college. So I'm sitting there watching this, just go, crying my eyes out. It was very sweet.
That's
Are you
great.
crying now?
No.
My favorite scene was the one I did with Scarlett Johansson and Charlize Theron, but they cut them out. So but it was
Married to Johnny with IBS, someone just wrote.
Yes.
I just wanted to chime in because I want to go back to where we were a second ago about just fans and the impact that the games can have on people. And this guy came to meet me at a signing back in, I think my first signing ever. It wasn't a Metal Gear signing, and it was an anime. And he had Meryl tattooed here.
Oh, wow.
Tattoo. And when he came up to meet me, I was like, why do you have Meryl on your arm? And he looked at me and he said, my sister died of breast cancer. And I was so depressed that I wanted to kill myself. And he said, Meryl saved my life. And we both, I was like, whoa! And I was
Now
hugging. What?
Now I'm crying.
Oh yeah. And it was so touching and so unbelievable. And we just hugged and I thanked him for coming to meet me and telling me, I couldn't believe it. And then when we had the MGS con, we were all sitting at our tables and the lines, and this guy comes up and he goes, I don't know if you remember me. And I looked at him and I said, I met you at Shumi. And he said, yeah, my sister. And that's all he needed to say. And I fell to my knees and I started crying. And I said, let me sign your arm. And I didn't think. And I signed my name and Meryl. And then the next day on Instagram, he went and tattooed it underneath. And now I'm tattooed.
Wow.
And I cried. It was so
That's
beautiful. I just wanted to
crazy.
share that. It was really
until you meet the fans in person, you don't. I was at a different convention for a cartoon I'd done in the '80s, an original thing called Mask Mobile Armored Strike Command, and half the people who came up to me at the table had controllers for me to sign. This is in the about 15 years ago, and I'm going, what is that about? Because I forgot. Because I've been doing this, and they said, Psycho Mantis, Metal Gear Solid, you changed my. And I began to do the research and realized, oh my God, it is so embedded in some people's lives. And for lots of different work I've done, I've had like soldiers walk up to me, were Army veterans, who said, when I was 5 years old, I watched a cartoon you did, and my dad had left, and you were like a father figure on the cartoon. Yeah, and I find myself hugging people and crying. You have no idea the impact you potentially have on people. It's really makes you feel much more privileged than I certainly realized when I started in the business. I didn't expect that, and it's something you have to honor.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about favorite scenes or that meant something to you. Well, in 2, when the AI goes through his whole spiel that about information and too much information and how everything, we know too much. There's too much information out there. You don't know what's real, what isn't real. Of course, this was back in 2001.
Something like that.
Yeah, 2001. And you look at what's going on in the world today, it's like, yeah, duh. It was happening then, but not like it is now. So that one hits me every once in a while.
We actually have a fan question who asked, how do you guys feel about, because AI back then was just, a thought or something that could possibly come together in the future. As we see now with AI today, it's creating voices, it's creating scripts, it's making artwork. Yeah.
Exactly.
One, did you guys ever think, being in that game and thinking that, hey, this actually could happen in the future? And 2, how do you feel about it actually watching, having been in the game where this was a big major part of it, actually seeing it happen in the real world?
Well, every single one of the games is reflective of the things that Kojima is concerned about or sees coming in the world. So the first game was all about mapping the human genome. The second game was all about AI. I don't know what the third game was about. The fourth game was about privatized military companies. These are all things that he knew were coming.
Mm.
And there was evidence, of course, that these things were coming, but he was so dialed in to the way society was going to change that the things he laid into the games he knew would be major issues today. And so I wasn't surprised. I was just concerned. If you know how well he does his research and how dedicated he is to illuminating these issues, you know that when you're playing Metal Gear 4, that privatized military companies are coming, and then one just marched on Moscow not too long ago.
Yeah.
So, if Kojima says
Now
it,
they march no more.
Yeah.
well, now they're marching had some interruptions, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll continue with a new leader, the Wagner people, if that's who we're talking about.
That's who we're talking about.
Yeah, they'll continue.
And then my favorite scenes were Sniper Wolf's death scene, the final sequence with the boss and Snake Eater, which is just also insanely beautiful and sad. And somebody on the chat asked if there was ever a boss I hated. I didn't hate the character, but fighting the cyber ninja Gray Fox in the front, and it's right before you get to Christopher. So I was like, I couldn't get through it. So I can imagine.
Yeah, if David couldn't get through it, there's no way I can.
Oh my God. The Gray Fox just kicked my ass again and again, and I was like trying to figure out how to
I know.
so that one was the most frustrating for me.
I love the marriage. I love the end of 4. 4 really,
Yeah, that was a lovely scene.
really, got me.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. And so, out of all the 5 games, then, which one is each one of your favorite?
Oh.
Other than obviously the one that you probably were in.
Yeah, should I say Phantom Pain? No, I've never played Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
Not familiar with that title.
My brain went, which one's that?
Right. I know, you were there for all of them. That's right.
Yeah, Chris, do you have a favorite?
I'm partial to the first one.
Yeah, the first one's
Yeah,
Just
see, me
because
too.
It's what
Me
started
too.
the whole thing.
Me
And
too.
Yeah.
Me
That
too.
was so special and so magical.
agree.
Even the stupid room that we were in.
Yeah.
But we made something very magical that lasted and is still here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Chris, can
And
I
did
just?
any of you guys think it would? Go ahead, Christopher.
Well, I was just going to ask because you obviously, Chris, were the first person to see the script. Did you have a sense that it was that special when you first read it, or was it
No.
as much a surprise to you as to us?
No, because again, I had I didn't have much information.
Right, right.
How much information did they give you?
The lines.
Very,
That was
very
the big-
little. They don't give you
Sometimes
anything.
it's
about the characters or the story, the overall.
The script.
What
That
it
was
was going to
just-
be about.
He's got a copy of it.
Oh, that's right.
It was this big.
Yes, it was.
First script was this
I was
big,
on
It was this big.
and we recorded it 10 days.
Reams and reams.
Metal Gear 4 took us 9 months. So
Yeah.
God knows. I mean, that would have been
Wow.
just piles and piles and piles. When we auditioned, they had the Yoji Shinkawa artwork up on the
Yeah.
walls. And so that was the first time I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like the design on this is incredible. And then on the first day we were recording, I think it was Jeremy Blaustein who translated the script and was a producer on the game for the first Metal Gear Solid, showed us the cutscene of Snake taking down the Hind D helicopter. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is a whole new level in cinematic gaming. Like I'd never seen anything like it. So that was where that first day was the day I started to realize this is going to be pretty special.
Yeah, well, it's been on over 25 years. I think the first one came out in '87. I mean,
25-year anniversary right
or
now.
Well, it's 25 years. There were 2 NES or NSX games with no voices in the 80s. And then 98 was when the one with the voices first came out, Metal Gear Solid.
And does anyone else
I remember.
think that it was going to go this
I remember-
long? It'd be this,
Oh, I
this
knew it.
celebrated. And
I knew it
such a huge
immediately.
franchise.
No, it's anybody who says that, I think is
Yeah.
a line.
I
Same
just
thing
said
happens
it.
with me with the Transformers. It's been 40 years. Did you realize it was going to be? I'm like, and then he just like says, oh yeah, I knew from the beginning. Yeah, you shut up. No,
Yeah,
we're just blessed.
yeah, we're lucky.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
never know what's going to hit, what's going to capture the fans' imagination. You just can't predict it.
Yep.
I remember recording that the first one. There were some things where we had to match to picture.
We
And-
did a lot of that, yeah.
And I remember that was particularly challenging, but also like we could see the pictures and it was like, wow, this is really, really interesting stuff.
It's
Now
always
let me ask you this. Maybe Chris has said, no, you guys can't do any of this. Was there ever any like input from you guys as far as like line wise, once you really got into the character?
I'm sure there was.
Or thinking, I don't know if you would say it like this, but can we change it this way?
That happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of that, a little bit of it? Any of these guys gave you the most problems?
I'm a
Maybe I should have opened up that can of worms.
well after.
Let's hear from the writer.
Oh,
So after
Yeah.
after I was lucky enough to get Metal Gear Solid, the next year I ended up writing the movie X-Men. So it was a pretty good time for me.
Yeah.
And then I was a professional screenwriter. So when we did all the rest of the games, I'm like, I don't understand this line or why I'm saying it, and none of this makes any sense to me. So I would ask Chris, I'd say, look, maybe what if we said it this way? Would that be better? And she's like, hang on. And so she asked the producers. The producers would call Tokyo. It'd be like a
It's a whole respect.
30-minute thing, and then they come back and go, no.
They've already animated it to the Japanese line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember
there were-
several incidents of that.
One where it's either, no, it's if she dies or not.
Meryl. If
Yeah,
Meryl
so,
dies.
no. Sniper Wolf.
She dies no matter what.
Yeah, I died no matter what.
I thought, no.
No, it's Meryl. If I get
On the
tortured,
snowmobile is Meryl?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we
If I-
ride off into the bison
If
if I
dies.
live.
if you die or live. So my one with that was if Meryl lived, they go off on a snowmobile together, and there's romantic music playing in the background. And then it was if Meryl was dead, then Otacon would go off on the snowmobile with him with the
With
same
romantic music. With
Yeah,
romantic
there's
music
all of
playing.
that. It was just so weird. That was the weirdest thing.
That
for
is
me.
kind of a
It
funny
remains
swap out.
weird.
I
It remains weird to this day. It's
I have to admit, I always let Meryl die so I can ride off with Otacon.
I am touched.
Just 'cause it's
I'm
so much
so
fun.
touched.
I just remember asking Chris if I could do a few knock-knock jokes as Psycho Mantis, and she shut me down. Didn't even call the producer.
I'd still shut you down.
Knock
My
jokes.
eyesight is terrible, but is that Kim Mai?
Yeah.
Yes, in my guess.
Wait, what?
Kim's
Hey!
That's here.
What?
I haven't seen her in so many years. Hi. Sorry to interrupt.
No, now we're going to open up and everyone's going to tell their favorite Kim Mai story.
Yeah.
If you guys can
David,
do
will
another.
you scream Meryl on the top of the Rex if you let her die? I'm reading the questions on the side of my screen.
I'm trying to
Well,
read some.
David will scream Meryl at the top of
There you
the
go.
Rex if you let her die. That's true. Yeah, that
But
happens.
here's a
Is that
good
Merle
question.
like Merle Haggard?
It was like Merle Haggard. That was my
Merle
inspiration.
Haggard.
What do you guys think, and would you be entertained the idea if MGS got made into an anime? And would you be
Oh,
down
yeah.
to direct Chris, and as well as you guys rehash
Hell
the
yeah.
voices?
Oh, that would be
In a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about.
And is there any talk about an anime coming through?
But it hasn't Jordan Roberts like been trying to.
Jordan Vogt Roberts and I talked about taking it out somewhere and ideally setting it up with everybody.
Or not even to cut you off, David, even the live action, because nowadays they're doing a lot of live action video games
Mhm.
and doing them really well, finally. Would that be something you guys would entertain?
Well, I do it.
like-
I don't know that they put up $200 million for me to star in a live action game.
Okay,
but
so-
if they would, I'd do it.
So the anime continue.
But the anime, well, there's not much else to tell. I mean, we explored it, but the powers that be were sort of dragging their feet on it, and I think they want to focus on the movie first. So it's a lot of Hollywood nonsense. But yeah, I think we would all be down to do a badass anime version of Metal Gear
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah,
I
you
can write it.
just got to find an executive who's willing to step down the ladder.
We would.
They'll never take their IP to a less
That's
profitable
true.
medium.
That's true. Yeah, they don't want to interfere with their feature plans, which they'll never get to, but it's just my Hollywood cynicism.
Yes. Turn around.
All right, and then any funny stories when you guys were all in the room together? Was there any person who kept cracking someone else up or making laughs and jokes when it's like a real serious scene? Or was everyone pretty much on the same page every day over the entire recording? And you guys,
I don't remember, really. I don't remember.
because it seemed like
I don't
it'd be a
remember
fun
any bad
environment.
children.
We all got our work done, but we did
We
have
had fun.
a fair amount of fun. One of my favorite just laid me up, Greg Eagles, who was an amazing actor who played the DARPA chief and Gray Fox, the cyber ninja. Lovely guy, big African-American actor, amazing voice. And I had a line about Metal Gear. That's one of the most secret black projects. He turns to me and he goes, "What the hell do you know about the black projects?" I hit the floor. So that was pretty good. And then my other favorite was in Metal Gear 4, where now I'm old Snake and I'm suffering accelerated aging. I'm 35, but I look like I'm 70. And Dr. Naomi, Jennifer Hale, is examining me. So she's like, "Okay, take off your sneaking suit, Snake," like this. And so I take it off. And in the scene, she has to go, "Oh, Snake," like this. And I'm like, "Hey."
Oh my God.
Use what you got. I'm trying to monetize Psycho Mantis these days by doing children's parties as a
Well, better that than OnlyFans.
You playing sexy Snake at children's parties?
But she's looking at me, she's examining my body. She's like, "Oh, Snake." And I'm like, "Hey. And she goes, "You're so shriveled." And
What was she looking at?
the whole
Snake.
I'm sure that was a funny moment.
the formerly solid Snake.
Trouser Snake.
Trousers.
Trouser Snake is there.
his character had just gotten out of the shower. Let's be fair.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, this is so fun.
And then, of course, Otacon and I mean, in the middle of all these long, semi-romantic scenes, we would just go off, and I just love
Yeah.
we're like Laurel and Hardy of the Metal Gear world.
Yeah, that was always fun. And, going back to, I just always loved being in the booth with you, David, or with anybody, but it just makes such a difference when you can play off of someone in real time live.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just more fun and you get better results always.
Always better results.
Yeah.
So much more magic.
Yeah, that brings a lot of life to it.
So then I go back.
Part of the reason why this game is so good.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, because you have an amazing cast and amazing director in Chris, and so that goes to you. Which one of these guys? I have two-part question. One, who was the easiest to direct, and then who was the most difficult?
Oh,
No.
You're
no.
not going to answer that.
That is
Oh
so
my
not
God.
No, not fair.
Say I do not recall. I do not recall.
I don't actually.
Oh.
Paul, I think, is a troublemaker. I'll tell you that.
I could tell.
Nah.
Always.
Oh, written all over me.
And then everybody else is my favorite.
They were all good. Love it.
Right.
I just, I always remembered, same as what Paul said, is that your directions were very minimal, and sometimes it felt like there was this psychic connection between you
Yeah, totally.
and me
Yeah.
in the booth, and you sometimes would just make a gesture or something, and we'd get it. That's very
Jennifer
exciting.
Day.
That's very exciting
I
work.
don't know how I do that, but it happens.
Yeah, as long as the
Jennifer
gesture
Hale-
isn't that's fine.
That's my favorite direction.
It is, it's a good one.
That's
No,
my
it's-
favorite direction.
It's good.
Jennifer Hale played the mom on Billy and Mandy, a Cartoon Network cartoon, and the mom's character was either off her meds or on her meds.
Uh-huh.
So we would judge, like, did she take her Prozac or did she not take her Prozac? And this one day she had a page-long scene, typewritten page-long scene, that the emotional being of this woman was frantic and up and down and this and that and the other thing. And I probably had some kind of little note to say on about everything just because it was so complicated. And I just looked at Jennifer and went, I just got it. She hit every note.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. You
That's
conveyed it
amazing.
in your gesture.
That's how it got after a number of games. I mean,
Yeah, it's
after
true.
the first game, you know, you get so in tune with Chris, and she'd be like, "Yeah, I think," and I'm like, "Yes, exactly." or my favorite line of direction was snakier. Got it.
That's so cool.
So let me ask you guys this then, two-part again. What was your most favorite line versus what was the most difficult one to really do? Like, there's a lot of emotional scenes. I'm sure, you know, some of those were, you had to dig down deep to find, you know, to really get to that emotional state of for you to deliver the line correctly.
Well, my favorite line is snake, snake, snake.
Oh,
And I have,
Which she came up with.
and I have snuck that into several cartoons that I've worked on as well.
ah,
An homage.
You know, there's just so many that were so heartfelt and emotional. I couldn't tell you a favorite.
I never had any emotional scenes because I'm British and we don't have emotions.
Not unless somebody burnt the fish and chips.
Except a Crystal Palace game.
Then you've got.
there you go. That's emotional.
And plus, it was 25 years ago. How am I supposed to remember that?
Yeah.
A lot of these
I know, that's
questions-
what I keep thinking. I can't
These are
remember
like
any.
I always found the tongue
Am I-
twisters were the most difficult.
The tongue
Yeah.
twisters?
Well, like Olga Gerlukovich, you know, but saying that fast in the context of a sentence,
Zadornov.
or wrapping your mouth around some of the technical specs and stuff, that was always pretty challenging.
Yeah, mine was similar, trying to do, you know, Shakespearean quotes with a Chinese accent. That was hard.
That's why I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
How many of us had to yell snake, snake, snake?
I did.
How many?
It was Chris,
There's a
Paul, Kim Mai. I think Jennifer had to do
Jennifer,
it.
I think, had to
I
do
Yeah,
it.
think-
Jennifer did it.
I think Jim had to do it.
Probably, yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
was
Probably
wondering.
paramedic. I mean, anybody I was dealing with closely on the. Maybe I think Meryl had to do it. I don't know. Now I think everybody did it.
Yeah, no,
I think
It was
Let's all do
Psychomantis
it
was like,
now together. Ready?
Snake. Here we go. All right, everybody. And
Snake.
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 Oh yeah, I had to do
I've
that.
had to.
Today,
Once.
or rather,
At every
today.
con I've gone to.
And with
Yeah.
that,
Whether
I'm
it's
gonna
a-
say goodbye because we're
Thanksgiving
running
song or
late and
whatever.
I have to do my signing and go into the world.
Yep, on that
Great to
note,
see
guys, we have
you.
been here for an hour. Thank you everyone for tuning
love you
in and
all.
joining us. Thanks to the great cast for sticking around through all our
Yeah.
technical difficulties and being here with such great stories.
It's fun.
Thank you all for joining us live. We appreciate it. Feel free to go to their shop.
Hello to Tanzania.
Hello from
Oh yeah,
Tanzania.
Tanzania was asking for a hello.
It's pronounced Tanzania. That's what Baxter Stockman would say.
Scotland.
Thank you guys for tuning in. That is the end of our Q&A. These guys will be signing on their own Instagram, so feel free to go to their
On
Instagram, watch their live signing, grab a print for yourself, grab a print for a friend. Always a great gift idea. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. Thanks, MGS Cast,
Have
for
a great
joining us.
day.
Appreciate you.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you. Good to see you all. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Let's hang